What is WKYT Plus? It's exclusive WKYT channels like First Alert Weather Now, our 24/7 streaming weather channel, as well as streaming programs like the First Alert Weather Show, Afternoon Buzz, Game Time Unplugged, and more, all available through your streaming devices. Step 1, search for WKYT Plus on your streaming device. Go ahead and install it. Don't worry, it's 100% free. Step 2, start watching. You can stream news live or watch whenever it's best for you. And there is exclusive live and on-demand streaming content.
Planning your day, keeping you safe, forecasting for you. From WKYT, this is the First Alert Weather Show.
And on this First Alert Weather Show, we're concentrating on winter weather. The exclusive winter weather forecast is on the way.
Plus, we'll take a look back at the devastating flooding that took place in February and staying safe during the winter months ahead.
And with winter just around the corner, what does the data show about how much snow we typically expect around here? We're breaking down month-to-month snowfall averages for the region. Hi, everybody. Welcome to the First Alert Weather Show, the debut of the First Alert Weather Show right here on the CW Lexington, and we're streaming on WKYT. Plus, that is Bill Bryant. I'm Chris Bailey. We are so glad you are along with us this evening.
It's going to be fun.
It is.
You know, to do this every day, talk about the weather in all of its elements, right?
Monday through Friday, we are the only half-hour show designated to weather in the entire region. How about that?
And we have a lot to get after tonight.
We do. It's a busy time. We know we've got the winter forecast coming up here in just a little bit. But, you know, before we get there, we got a lot of rain to go through.
That's right.
We can think about that.
People have been dealing with that all day.
Yeah, absolutely. Let's get into the current weather part of the program before we look too far ahead. Let's concentrate on Somerset because it is raining to beat the proverbial band here into Pulaski County. Those rains are going to continue to come down. They've been coming down pretty much all day long here across southern parts of Kentucky. This is that Somerset cam where the rain is locally heavy. Some of us down here picked up a quarter to a half inch of rain already on the day. Lexington, okay, not so much, but the rain is starting to filter back in from southwest to northeast. Current temperature trend, 45 Covington. Southern Kentucky, we are tickling 60 degrees, and those thermometers across the south are going to start to climb heading into the overnight, and those numbers are going to even climb across parts of northern Kentucky. So forecast into your Friday, a very wet day. We got rounds of rain. Some thunder will be noted from time to time. The temperature right at 60 to 65 degrees. Do I think it's going to rain all day tomorrow? I do not, but you don't want to be caught outdoors without the rain gear or the umbrella. First Alert Radar Network, sprinkles or a light shower in Nicholasville down into parts of Clark County, up and down the Mountain Parkway, 460, coming out of the Camargo area into Frenchburg and on toward West Liberty, some showers. Heavy rains, Corbin, London, back over to Somerset. That extends into southern Kentucky and more in the way of heavy rain going all the way back into parts of Texas and Oklahoma, where a big low pressure is spinning its way toward the region. Watch the hour-by-hour forecast. In the short term this evening, in northern Kentucky, we're better than everybody else in terms of drier conditions. Now, if it's not raining outside your house in the morning, hang in there because I promise you it's going to be raining as the day wears on. Southern Kentucky, if we can somehow manage to get a little ray of sunshine, that thermometer is going to jump up on us. 70 would be possible across southern Kentucky tomorrow. Some showers, some thunderstorms would come calling, and by the time we go into the day on Saturday, I'm confident the rains are going to slow down. We will see exactly when the clouds depart the region. I do think before all is said and done, Sunday afternoon may see a little bit of sun across parts of north central Kentucky, Bill. For the rest of us, we'll have to wait until we get into the day on Sunday.
You know, we told people last weekend was a good one to get your decorating done and all of that. Some have, some haven't. So this weekend, you might have to deal with dodging showers.
Sunday is going to be your jam. All right. If that's the day you want to get out and do up the Christmas lights in the yard, get out there and do them up. All right, Kentucky's deadliest winter flooding in years, Bill, as we remember, claimed 25 lives back in February, and survivors are still picking up the pieces.
A WKYT First Alert meteorologist Alexa Minton visited one of the hard-hit communities this past week and looks back on what that event was like for communities as those waters rose in the cold.
I've lived here for, my whole adult life, and I have, never seen water that has rose the amount that it did back in February.
Owsley County was one of the many areas that suffered devastating damage from the February 2025 floods. The South Fork of the Kentucky River reached major flood stage, just a few inches below the historic record.
Everyone was just kind of, me included, holding our breath, and we were like, is it going to get worse, or is it, finally going to crest and, finally start to recede? I have drone shots of this area.
Nika Fry considers photography a hobby, but as the river rose in her hometown of Boonville, she felt like it was a necessity to share with the world what was happening in eastern Kentucky.
Water was actually up to this house. You can drive by and you can see the flood, but once you put a drone in the air and you see it from the air, that's when you're like, wow, it's unbelievable.
Kentuckians are tough. And eastern Kentuckians are especially tough.
The flooding closed over 300 roads and left over 40,000 homes without power. Governor Beshear says witnessing the devastation firsthand was difficult.
After the February flooding, being in Coal Run, the lady who owned the beauty salon had worked to build that up for 20 plus years, and it was just destroyed.
And even once the water stopped rising, there were additional challenges for first responders in the aftermath as snow showers and bitter cold pushed into the state.
We live in the mountains, and those people generally cannot get out if it's a lot of snow just because of the mountain terrain. And then you start adding flooding immediately on top of that. Some of these people, their only access point is maybe a road, away from their house, and that's the road that got flooded.
As Nika and other Kentuckians brace for the approaching winter weather season, Governor Beshear shared that the state is ready and prepared to keep our communities safe in the event of more impactful inclement winter weather.
We cannot simply clam up and not listen to the important weather information that you and other meteorologists and the National Weather Service are providing. Every single one we've got to take seriously, because far too many of them have turned far too serious.
For WKYT, I'm First Alert meteorologist Alexa Minton.
Boy, last winter was just absolutely heartbreaking in terms of the flooding. It was a really harsh winter across the land. We had the record snows and ice back in January, following that up with the historic flooding. So what about this winter? We're looking ahead with the winter forecast. I look back on this year, it was all over the place. The one constant has been just a ton of rain, no matter from when we started the year back into October. It was the wettest ever recorded in Lexington. So I look at that and try to find similar years. Also look across the globe at a weak La Nina that has developed here again for the second year in a row across the Pacific, where it looks in my eyes to be really similar to last year at this same time. We watch the North Pacific and back over toward the Japan coast, where a marine heat wave has been ongoing, and now we're starting to see waters that were a little colder than normal across the Gulf of Alaska start to warm a little bit. I look at all of that and I come up with some years, and I look ahead with high latitude blocking that's going to show up that generally forces the jet stream to take a big dip across the eastern half of the country. So the temperatures, I'll get out of your way so you can see that. I'm expecting below normal, a little colder start to the winter time, then a milder end, above normal snowfall. Some of the years I look back at are just about the same years that last year I had on this same list. But I added 2024 because last year turned out a lot like what we expected, and it's turning out, I think this year turns out a lot like what happened last year. So what we're going to be dealing with is a month-by-month breakdown of 3 to 5 degrees colder than normal for the month of December. December has a chance to be among the colder Decembers we're ever going to find across Kentucky. January, we're not quite as cold. We're still out there, though. Snowfall will be above normal both of those months. Then all of a sudden, let's go to February. Let's go to March. Can we get into an early spring? I think that is the case this year. And if you're looking at just how much snows I'm expecting across the land, the normal for Lexington is at 15 inches of snow. Last year, we finished with right at 24 inches officially out at Bluegrass Airport. Other parts of the region had 30 inches of snow or more. Well, Bill, my snowfall forecast through March, that's with every flake that falls, including what happened last Monday when we had just a little bit of snow, is showing well above normal snowfall across central and eastern Kentucky yet again. Can we make it back-to-back winters that are harsh? We're going to watch the middle of December to the middle of January. I think that stretch is going to be the worst of this entire winter.
That will tell the tale.
I think it will.
Yeah. All right. We had our first snowfall of the season last week, and it probably won't be our last, obviously. Which month, though, has the most snow and the coldest temperatures?
Yeah, First Alert meteorologist Ben Beddoes walks us through the data from all the winters we've been recording around here since the 1870s and what those trends actually mean. Ben?
Here's a breakdown of what we see on a month-to-month basis and for winter as a whole. December does feature some snow. On average, we see at least 3 days where snow accumulates, with snowfall averages below 2 inches. If you're looking for a big snow, odds are the lowest of the winter months in December, with an 11% chance of seeing 4 or more inches of snow in a given day. In January, things kick up a notch. Average highs are in the low 40s with lows in the mid-20s. On average, more than a quarter of January days don't see the thermometer get above freezing. January is the snowiest month, edging out February. The odds of seeing 4 or more inches of snow rises to 22%. In February, things start to warm up a smidge, but the odds of getting snow are about the same as January. February is a close second when it comes to average snowfall, with the chance of seeing 4 or more inches of snow still at 20%. Even in March, chances are you can get a snowfall or two. While average highs climb into the mid-50s, March still averages almost 3 inches of snow. The chances of seeing 4 or more inches of snow at 15%. As a whole, in Lexington, we average 14.5 inches of snow a year, with the average last snow day March 22nd. You can expect at least one day being exceptionally cold, as more than half the winters in Lexington have seen at one point temperatures drop below zero. Also, about 1 in 4 winters feature at least 1 6-inch or more snowfall. But to see over a foot in one day, it's only happened once in the 139-year history of records in Lexington. So there you have it, your winter weather statistics for our area.
All right, thank you, Ben. We will see what this winter has in store for us. I've got the bold prediction coming up a little later on. You got to stay tuned for that, the 10-day breakdown, and we're looking at what's ahead coming up next. Stay with us.
An attempt to serve a search warrant ends with an innocent man dead. The story of Doug Harless's death is one we've covered extensively since the night it happened. 1 year later, many questions remain unanswered. Good evening, I'm Samantha Valentino. Thanks for joining us here on WKYT+. Tonight, we're taking a look back at Doug Harless's story and have exclusive interviews, including the first with an officer who was at Harless's home the night he died. This is the death of Doug Harless 1 year later.
Planes that road stand by in the area, shots fired.
Just be advised, this is area.
Just 2 days before Christmas, Doug Harless's family says he was asleep inside his home when nearly a dozen officers surrounded it. The time was 11:50 p.m. Surveillance video from a neighbor captured London police banging on Harless's door and announcing themselves. By 11:51, officers are seen moving around on Harless's porch as others move to different positions around his home. Then, 5 gunshots. The attorneys representing Harless's family say these shots hit his head, heart, right lung, aorta, and pulmonary artery.
It breaks our heart every time we hear them gunshots. We have to watch that every day, knowing our brother was on the other side of that door.
Kentucky State Police initially didn't say whether Harless was armed. 3 days after the shooting, London police said Harless pointed a gun at officers that night. It's unclear whether video showing the moments inside Harless's home before the shooting exists. London police officers weren't wearing body cameras at the time. The department purchased cameras in 2016, but stopped using them in 2023, partially due to cost. Since WKYT's reporting, department policy changed and new body cameras were purchased for all officers. This is 511 Vanzant Road, where KSP says the shooting happened. But according to Laurel County dispatch audio we've obtained, London police were attempting to serve a search warrant for this house, 489 Vanzant.
This is London PD, Van Zant Road, 489 Van Zant Road. Units on scene, 10 serve search warrant. Calling on the radio for assistance. Shots fired. 489 Van Zant Road.
When they got there, did they not communicate with each other of someone, are we at the correct address?
London police policy required officers to confirm they were entering the correct home. Once a search warrant is signed, a supervisor must approve the execution of the warrant. Then that supervisor will either act as or assign a search supervisor. The search supervisor chooses how many officers are needed and what equipment they'll use. They must also positively identify the location. They also assign an entry team leader. This officer can stop the entry at any time if there's any doubt about entering the correct location. A lawsuit filed on behalf of Harless's family says his home was clearly marked and motion-activated lights illuminated the home's marking of 511. They say those lights were working at the time of Harless's death. That night, Kentucky State Police took over the investigation, as is standard practice for shootings involving police. 1 year later, that case remains open.
When you lose someone, you grieve. And you take that time to grieve. To us, we can't get that. As long as they're in an open investigation.
We've repeatedly asked for a copy of the search warrant. Every request has been denied. The Laurel County Circuit Court says they still haven't received a copy. Experts tell us this is unusual. Warrants are typically filed with the court immediately after execution. But state police filed their own search warrants to collect evidence in Harless's death. Those warrants revealed what London police were looking for that night: stolen lawn equipment.
I told them on Van Zant Road, there was a weed eater there, and they took it to where they wanted to go with that.
Hobart Buttry is accused of stealing a weed eater and other lawn equipment from a property in Laurel County. He was arrested just after 7:30 on the night of December 23rd, just hours before Harless was killed by police.
And they went to the wrong address, is what that was.
The lawsuit says Buttry told officers he gave the property to a man who'd been evicted from 489 Van Zant Road. We're not identifying that man as he hasn't been charged. Buttry told us he didn't tell police the lawn equipment was at Harless's home.
Everybody knows him, and my whole family knows him. That is sad. That he comes to that over, I hate to say this, but he would never come to that if it wasn't whose stuff it was.
Public records show the lawn equipment was stolen from property belonging to Laurel County Judge Executive David Westerfield. The morning after the shooting, Westerfield called dispatch to speak with an officer about the theft.
They did arrest him last night. They got out with him over in Manchester. I don't know how much I could really say. I don't know how much I can really say about the situation down in Lilly last night.
Well, he wasn't part of that, was he?
Yeah, that search warrant come off of, from my understanding, David, that search warrant come off of his arrest. Because he had said that he had took a weed eater down there to a dope dealer's house there off of Van Zant.
Okay. And the boy was shot and killed, right?
That's my understanding. I'm not very. They've not told us anything about it. So.
Yeah, I understand. No, they called me at 1 o'clock this morning and told me all about it. So okay. I know all about that one.
Someone needs to be held accountable for busting in our brother's door in the middle of the night over a weed eater, quote unquote, and within a minute and 30 seconds shooting and killing him.
And that's why Harless's family says they've hired a team of attorneys and filed a lawsuit against the City of London, the London Police Department, and 9 individual officers. Still ahead, we'll hear from those attorneys along with London Mayor Randall Weddle and for the first time, Police Chief Bobby Day, who was at Harless's home the night he was killed. We're back in 2 minutes.
Welcome to Off the Beaten Path, a closer look with Sam Dick.
Welcome, everybody, to Off the Beaten Path, a closer look. I'm Sam Dick, and what a great opportunity. What a great adventure we're starting, and you're a part of it, debuting Off the Beaten Path, a closer look. Before I forget, this is really important. You need to download the WKYT Plus app, if you haven't already, directly to your connected television by using Roku, Apple TV, and Amazon Fire TV. It's 100% free. Once you have the WKYT Plus app, you're in like Flint. So, you know, for the last 3 years after leaving the anchor desk here at WKYT, I'm a storyteller at heart. And I wanted to find a way to tell positive stories about people who have a passion about life. So we created Off the Beaten Path. And for the last 3 years, I've been traveling the state. I've been to more than 24 counties, meeting some great people, people of kindness, people with compassion, people who have a mission in life that maybe they don't get a lot of publicity about. And that's what we do with Off the Beaten Path. In this program, at least a couple of times a month to start, we're going to take a deeper look at a specific story on Off the Beaten Path and learn about some things we didn't have time for before. So for the first time, for the first show, I knew I needed something really cool to start with. When I found out that a Somerset teacher and his students were taking hundreds of pounds of invasive carp and turning that into a meal for rehabbed raptors at the Lake Cumberland Wildlife Refuge, I was like, man, that's a story I got to tell. So we're going to go back and look at the story that ran originally back in September, and then we're going to take a deeper look at some aspects of it that we didn't have time for. So let's take a look at the story that aired in September on killing carp to feed raptors. Hank Jeveden's trailer is loaded with a special cargo. The Somerset Independent High School teacher has 1,000 pounds of carp donated from a fishing tournament on Kentucky Lake.
How about that? Yeah. My wife promised I'd get a picture like this on my favorite carp shirt with that.
Jeveden and dozens of his students and volunteers will fillet and package bags of carp meat to feed injured birds of prey in rehabilitation at the nearby Lake Cumberland Wildlife Refuge. Raptors like Jackie, a bald eagle.
So this is an example of what they might eat when they get their carp. It does have the skin still on it, but it's got that nice meat that they can pick apart and pull from.
The Wildlife Refuge is a nonprofit on a tight budget, so donations of food are greatly appreciated.
Hank's program is perfect for us because it allows us to give these birds what they want, what they desire. Hank is not only reducing our cost, he's taking invasive species out of the wild, and all the leftover parts, it's not wasted. That goes on to organic farmers for compost. So it's a full circle thing.
Carp are invasive in Kentucky. They consume large amounts of plant life that other fish species need. The Kentucky Fish and Wildlife Department encourages projects to get rid of carp. Using them to feed injured birds of prey, says Jeveden, is a win-win.
Any day you get to fish and then take that fish and freeze it and know that it's going to feed an eagle or an owl or a hawk in rehab, man, that's a good feeling.
His high school engineering students are also working on designing a machine that will separate the carp's bone from its meat.
We remove all the red meat, and then after that we're sending a machine which it will shatter the bones off the meat off the bones.
This is something you're developing?
Yes, sir.
Out of 1,000 pounds of fish, Jeveden estimates they'll produce about 400 pounds of food for the birds of prey in rehab.
And it makes me a little emo to think that all winter long, raptors in rehab, owls and hawks and eagles are going to eat good fish because we're putting it together. So thanks again for all my students being here.
It's just phenomenal. It really lifts my heart, lifts my spirits, and encourages me to keep doing what I'm doing.
Off the Beaten Path in Somerset. I'm Sam Dick reporting for WKYT. Joining us now is Hank Jeveden, a teacher at Somerset Independent High School, and he is the mastermind behind this project, the Carp Rodeo, and his students working on various projects. It's really cool what they're doing. Hank, welcome, and thank you for your patience and joining us.
Thank you very much. I'm glad to be here.
So for the average person out there, invasive carp, they may not quite understand exactly what that means and why it's important. Talk a little bit about invasive carp in Kentucky and why they're not good.
Okay. Now, the German carp that we have here can overpopulate things. They're the yellow carp most people know about, but the Asian carp that are having so much trouble in western Kentucky, they were brought here to control aquatic vegetation in streams and ponds and things like that. And evidently, some flooding released them into some major waterways. Well, they found themselves to be right at home here, because a female silver carp can lay nearly 3 million eggs a year. And there are silver carp, big-headed carp, black carp, and grass carp, which some people are familiar with from putting in their ponds to control algae and things like that. So when these got loose in the main waterways, they quickly overpopulate. You can't hook them with a hook because they filter algae and things with their gill plates, and they just cruise around like a big cow eating everything green that comes in their way. And what they can do is they quickly shut out all the other parts of the food chain that might need this food. Plus, once they get up to a certain size, nothing can physically get them in their mouth, and they just keep swimming around and eating and getting bigger and bigger and bigger.
Does this basically starve the other fish?
From what I understand, it does. It changes the entire ecosystem. Plus, they have large spawning beds. And then on top of that, everyone has seen the videos where the silver carp, can jump if something like a motor comes to and scares them. Their reaction is to jump. Now, the big heads don't jump, the big-headed carp, but they're just so numerous that they swim around like a herd eating everything, and they become an invasive species, and they're becoming a real problem.
When I watched in Somerset back in September when you were doing the carp rodeo, there was a lot to the trimming and the filleting and the bagging of the food to be used for food for raptors. Talk about what the students and you are trying to develop in terms of that fillet process, separating the bone from the meat of the fish.
Sure. Well, the first step when we brought them in, we were just looking to be able to remove the fillet from the carcass and then cut it up in pieces, skin on, so that the raptors would recognize it as food. And then they would be able to, we wanted to try to fill the freezers of any rehab that wanted to work with us so that they would have good fish, good high quality fish for the raptors to eat all year long, because I didn't realize this, but every raptor we have in Kentucky eats fish. Okay. Owls, hawks, eagles, they like fish. They like it a lot. And I didn't know where to get enough fish. So about 3 years ago, I began looking at going to Western Kentucky, and I finally found a hookup with PL Outdoorsmen out there, who they have carp tournaments the way we would have bass tournaments, except they shoot these with a bow and arrow, and they bring in hundreds and even thousands of pounds of fish at a time. They either put them in a ditch or they take them to the fertilizer plant because they just want them out of the water. Well, we brought them back, and my students who'd been trained to play bluegill and local fish getting ready for this, we began to realize that the fish was beautiful, firmly textured, smelled very nice. And the only thing is, this particular type of fish, these carp, contain a series of Y bones that actually grow down into the meat. So it's very difficult to get out. In the Asian market, they don't care. They're used to eating this. They pick around the bones and go ahead and eat it and enjoy it. And it's a delicacy. But here, people don't like to eat fish with bones in it. They don't like it to be ground to grind the bones up. So as a challenge to my engineering students, we looked at being able to mechanically work up the fillets in such a way that we might be able to separate the meat from the bones so that it would be a better marketable product to the American palate.
Wow. And speaking of the American palate, carp can become tasty for human beings, correct? Like if I go to a restaurant, I don't see carp on the menu. So what are you doing with the carp to make it so someone like me would eat it?
The Asian carp, if it's treated properly, kept on ice, cleaned correctly, has its own very nice, very delicate flavor. And many people say that in taste tests, people will choose the copia, as they've renamed it, the carp. They will choose the carp over other food fishes because it is. Now, I actually have a fillet here. This particular fillet, okay, is off of a 20-pound fish, okay? It's huge and beautiful. The fish is the flesh is firm, and it's just a beautiful, sweet-smelling fish. Now, we cut it up in 2-pound packages, roughly, to feed to the birds. But we began to look at this and think that maybe they're onto something. So last Friday, we fried catfish and made sandwiches to do a taste test. And this Friday, we're going to thaw this food grade filet out, fillet it off the bones by hand, which is kind of laborious, but we have many frozen pounds of carp through the winter to test our machines on.
So do you think at some point people in general will become used to ordering or getting carp to eat more so than they do now?
I truly believe that if you can get the bones out of this fish, that if it's as good as they say it is, I truly believe that we can introduce it to the American market.